New commitment for the Notre Dame Fighting Irish in the 2022 class, number 3 for the Irish in the rising junior cycle. I'm Mike Singer, blueandgold.com recruiting insider, joined on the Zoom call here with former Irish linebacker captain Mike Goolsby. If you're watching via YouTube, please give us a like and subscribe. If you're listening on us via podcast, we appreciate that. Please leave us a 5-star review if you enjoy it, or even if you don't enjoy it, do it anyways. So new commit we're talking about today is Nolan Ziegler from Grand Rapids, Michigan Catholic Central High School. He picked the Irish over Boston College, Cincinnati, Iowa, Nebraska, Virginia Tech, but it really came down to Michigan and Notre Dame. This is a kid with strong bloodlines to both schools. I believe it's like a great-grandfather played for Michigan in the 30s. And then his son was played for the Irish. I believe he was a quarterback in the 70s, and another relative played linebacker for Notre Dame in the 70s. Actually played those two guys played together, and I believe he had a relative who was one of the first cheerleaders at Notre Dame. So big Irish fans in this family. I mean, when Notre Dame offered Ziegler, instantly became the team to beat. This is a 6'4", 205-pound linebacker, pretty versatile guy. Played at about 180 pounds last fall, Mike. And then this spring, when COVID hits and everyone's really staying at home, they were able to get a weight set, because at that point weight sets were just flying off the racks. They were able to get like a weight set on Facebook Marketplace, and Ziegler put on like 25 pounds really just since the spring, and his recruiting process really started to elevate in July and August as he went to a camp, the underclassmen report camp, and I believe it was in Ohio, and got that film out there and his measurements. So Michigan offered him late July. Then August 5th, Notre Dame offers him. 15 days later, he announces, 17 days later today, he announces his commitment to Notre Dame. But 2 days ago, he gave his pledge to Brian Kelly on a Zoom call. So there's some context for you. Mike, when you're watching his sophomore tape, he had no offers at that point. His first offer didn't come until January. Central Michigan offered him. So you're watching his tape. What do you think about his film? What did he show his sophomore year?
Can I get to that? There's a couple other thoughts I had while you were speaking. So just important for subscribers, viewers, listeners, he's not a legacy kid. Like, he technically is a legacy kid, right? He's got Notre Dame lineage, but he can play. So just get that out of the way. We spoke yesterday about folks on the message boards and we're signing too many three-star kids, etc. This kid may wind up being a 3-star just because he did commit so early. I don't know if he's going to wind up with 25 offers, right? If he's got 12 or so,
yeah.
And Notre Dame's his 12th, he commits. And then don't look at the offer sheet either, because as most folks know about recruiting, you sort of start small. So if Central Michigan, a local school, is his first offer, you sort of go up the totem pole. Avante Dickerson in town here, he's got offers from LSU and Ohio State. His first offer was South Dakota State, and you build. My first offer was Southern Illinois, and you build, right? So don't put too much stock in that. And then the other thing that's really interesting for me, it's probably worth talking about, and we will get to the film. He's a lifelong Notre Dame kid. I saw he had a quote, this is something that every kid dreams of, right? It'll be interesting to see, because he is kind of like a traditional Notre Dame get. Like, he looks the part, has the grades, etc. How well he can sell and sort of lead this class into the future, right? As his class's recruiting cycle, I'd imagine he'd be politicking for Notre Dame kind of behind the scenes on Twitter and things like that, because he is like
he bleeds blue and gold.
I was just going to say, probably the type of kid that bleeds blue and gold, and he believes what he's selling. You know what I mean?
Sure.
He didn't even shop around. He's like, no, I want this. So that'll be interesting to kind of track, and as you will, Mike, as you
Sure.
do your job. But so as far as the film, just some notes here. Yeah, he's definitely a future linebacker. Yeah, on his huddle tape, he's got himself listed as a strong safety wide receiver. Seems a lot more comfortable doing linebacker things in terms of moving laterally, his keys in the box. I said he'll play. Like in the future, he'll play because he knows what he's doing, especially for such a young kid. I think he will become more physical as he kind of grows into that body and takes ownership of that body he found when he put on his quarantine 15. So that'll be fun to watch.
It was a good quarantine 15 too.
Yeah, good quarantine 15, unlike the rest of us. But yeah, another one of these kids, Mike, that's like he's multiple. He's a great blitzer, especially for a young kid. And that's why I'm saying that he's going to play, because he gets it. I think he's been really well coached at the high school level. Obviously, he's been watching football with his family his whole life, right? They know what they're doing. But yeah, he'll play. I think he'll play. So if he's going to be a future Buck, but yeah, he's probably better right now in terms of his development, Mike, going downhill or laterally than he is going backwards into coverage, in terms of like his back pedal's a little sloppy. But again, what is he, 15 years old in this video we're watching here? So I think a good traditional Notre Dame, almost dare I say like old school type of get. Like he just looks like a Notre Dame kid.
How important is it that, I mean, at his age as a sophomore, he's just that instinctual with how he reads things? Like someone like Prince Colley, you see him, and this is Notre Dame's 2021 linebacker commit. You're like, holy crap, like he looks like an SEC running back. Ziegler's sophomore tape doesn't exactly look like that, but he's just brilliantly smart in the classroom and on the football field. Like how important is that you're like, holy crap, this kid's a sophomore and he can read things and react so fast?
Mm-hmm. At the college level, it's super important because your coach has got to trust you, because their jobs are always on the line, ostensibly week to week. So this is the kid that's going to understand his keys. He's probably going to understand the scheme as a whole outside of just his responsibility. So from a trust perspective with his future position coach, future coordinator, that weighs a ton. It will be, I would project that with the kid puts on 15, 20 pounds of muscle, he's going to become more confident as a young man. Kids love to lift weights. You hope he doesn't lose any of that athleticism or flexibility or kind of long speed that we've touched on here before. But yeah, if your basis is he's an above average athlete, and then you add to the fact that he's advanced in terms of his understanding of scheme, timing and things, angles, it's a really good foundation for a future. I will call him a Buck at this point.
Yeah, I think, I mean, we've mentioned this with a lot of linebackers. They kind of start out at Rover and they move into Buck. It's kind of how they're recruiting some of these guys, and that's what they've done. With Drew Tranquil and a lot of these guys over the years, especially under Clark Lee here. When we talk about floor and ceiling, what's your take on that? How good can he be? And then the floor, it seems like, he's just going to be a really solid special teams guy. If he's not a starter, again, the floor at the worst, if he never is a starter in Notre Dame's defense, he seems like he's just going to be a really solid special teams guy. And you see a lot of that on his sophomore film.
Yeah. And a willingness to hit too, a willingness to do it. Seems like he likes football. I'm watching some of he's got a nice huddle tape that he kind of put together. You'd like to see so we both love Colley, right? Prince Colley. And one of the things that makes him so unique and so fun to watch and does get you so excited is that pop, that sort of burst that he has. Nolan doesn't quite have that right now, but that's like when you see that pop from Colley, you're like, man, that kid's going to be a freaking stud.
Yeah.
So it's easier. It's more tempting to push for a higher ceiling for a Colley. We'll see. I'm always hesitant to answer those questions, Mike, about a 15-year-old kid.
Right.
I am, because I mean, the kids that I work with, it's like, you could take a kid. I've got a kid in town. He's got a handful of FCS offers, and he's probably like a MAC type linebacker. And his progression, man, in 6 months, it's not that it's night and day, but it's dramatic how much, because once you can kind of teach a kid, like with his movement, like refine it a little bit, that ceiling goes up. So he's a work in progress. He's a young kid, can do a lot of different things, understands football, got a big frame, above average feet. I'd like to see a little bit more burst, but sometimes with that quick twitch, new muscle he puts on, maybe that'll come along with it. So I don't want to get into floor and ceiling with 15-year-olds, 16-year-olds.
Yeah, I mean, not only is I've been told that he's got a lot stronger. Apparently he's got a lot faster too. So it's like the sophomore film you're watching is from 8 to 10 months ago. So it's like he's a completely different player now.
Yeah. So like a fun analogy, like you've seen like back in high school science class or whatever, they'd have like that skeleton hanging in the corner of the room or whatever.
Sure.
So imagine a kid that's 6'4", 180 as a sophomore. He's a skeleton. He's a bag of bones. Really. He's a bag of bones. He's all elbows and knees. So as he grows into that body and becomes a young man, then we got the musculature to kind of move those bones. So yeah, like I mentioned, yes, he's like, you kind of piggybacked what I was talking about, is he's packing on good muscle, and then you can sort of start to develop some of that quick twitch type stuff. Because that's more and more with football, it's that bendability and it's that twitchiness is what folks are looking for, and along with length. So he's got the length. He's got that down. So now we want to work on the twitch, and he does seem bendy, but he's a good blitzer too.
Yeah.
So anyways, yeah, good get for the Irish. It'd be exciting to see what his junior tape looks like, really.
I was just about to mention that Michigan high school football has been pushed back to the spring, I believe, so he will not get to play this fall. Just last thoughts, Mike.
Well, shoot, by then, Mike, he's going to be like 250. He keeps this up.
So Notre Dame has 3 commits now in the 2022 class, and certainly might be more to come here in the near future. Got Jack Nickel, the tight end, who you believe is a complete player. Joey Tanona, you're fired up about maybe a left tackle, maybe a right tackle. Yeah. And now Ziegler. What are your thoughts about this early 2022 class for the Fighting Irish?
It's a good start. Nickel, yeah, it's hard to poke. Like Nickel, it's like, man, you wish. What do you obviously you want everybody to be faster, and you want everybody to be twitchier, and you want everybody to be a freak athlete. He's not quite that, but he's very complete. A really safe get. I would say very low bust potential there. I mean, he might be your second tight end, like at worst, right?
Right.
Tanona, I'm a big fan of him. I really am, especially for being such a young kid with him. Just kind of replaying his highlight tape in my mind, dude. He's super physical for being like a sophomore. It's like remarkable. So it's a good start. It just depends on what those coaches' needs are for that class. I think a nice part of just going back to Ziegler is that duality can probably play 2, if not all 3 of those linebacker spots into the future, depending on, again, so oftentimes somebody's body dictates how they're slotted position-wise. So that's still up in the air.